Discord. Guys, I'm so tuned out right now that it's really difficult for me to log in. And I mean, part of that may be my schedule, and I'm not trying to make excuses by any means, but I do think that the content that's being presented is a large factor here. I'm just not as into it. Guys, what do you think?
I feel you on that. I haven't been in very much. When I am in, I'm usually not even on my main at this point. I'm usually leveling up my alt character, because at least then I can get the XP out of Deep Dungeon and have it be worth something. And that's like, if I wasn't leveling her up, when she hits 60, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because she's at 58 right now. And when she hits 60, I don't know. I'm not doing Yokai Watch. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
None of the mounts inspire me. None of the minions inspire me.
Some of the minions are so cute.
Sure, but I don't want them. I don't care. I have cute minions. I've got a Cactuar that follows me around. I'm good. What else is there right now? I don't know.
I just feel like I've been so tuned out of the game at this point that there's so much content that I've missed on. I still need to get Reveries done. I need a whole bunch of, I need to farm Bald so I can continue in my Rhapsodies
Get out of here with that 11 chicken.
No, I think he's got the right idea. Play 11. Hey, we had fun on the other day, didn't we?
Seriously, for me, when I'm at work scrubbing dishes endlessly, my mind wanders to what I could be doing in Final Fantasy XI, and that, I think, speaks volumes to how much content there is in 14 at this moment.
I feel like this is so, I don't even know how to defend this, because you guys don't raid. I think all the time about, my next raid day and when I'm going to log on and what I have to do before I can raid, because I have to do my Weeping City. I'm still pretty hooked on this, and I'm not entirely sure how to...
Well, no, I think actually you bring up a great point. Is if you have something like raiding, that is what hooks you, and you have to look forward. No.
Well, I think it's someone. I think that Nika, for you, it's the people, the connection that you've made with your raid group, and wanting to still support the group and still support the people who are part of the group.
It's hard to say that, because we've reformed our group so many times because people keep quitting.
No, but it's the idea
also the idea of raiding, not just of the group, of the people.
Right.
But I enjoy raiding. That's what I enjoy doing in the game. So as long as I have something to work towards, we're actually actively and very well progressing through A7, and it's a lot of fun. So I actually look forward to that, and I find myself thinking about, okay, we died at this part last time, let me think about what I can do better, while I'm washing dishes. That's where my mind goes.
But so we've talked about the importance of making your content geared towards that end game player base.
Sure.
So that if you have something like raiding, where that is what you look forward to coming to do every week, that's why you're logging in. For people like us who are not so much into raiding, but we might be into another kind of end game event, we're kind of just now what?
Right. It definitely, because Nika, you were always into raiding, and raiding hasn't changed. What we've gotten are
I disagree, because A3 ripped out my soul and stomped out it, and I hated raiding when it was Gordian. It is much better now.
Okay, well, but what I'm saying is that we've got we've had two added systems that are not aimed at raiders. They have been sort of aimed at this middle ground where Square Enix hasn't been hitting. We've identified the valley in their content where there's a lot there's a lot in terms of dungeons. There's a lot of stuff that you can do daily that everyone can do, and it's pretty ubiquitous that you're going to go in there and you're going to win. But there isn't much in the middle ground between that and the razor line that you have to walk when raiding. And so
Deep Dungeon's a step in the right direction, I think. I feel like it sucks that we only got I think that it sucks that we only got 50 floors, because I feel like that it was just starting to get difficult in 41 to 50. I feel like most people do not wipe until they get after 41. But the thing is, as it does happen, people get pissed, and it's not guaranteed. You take one wrong step on a lure trap, you get too many mobs, you're dead. It's going to happen. And I feel like if the difficulty continues to progress as we get to level 100 and beyond, and if they address the only way to open the portal is by killing X amount of monsters, I think it could be kind of hit that sweet spot. But we have yet to see that, because we only got 50 floors. So.
I see, but
This is where
I don't know that I don't know that that's true though.
It's kind of like as much as I say I was getting burnout on it, like that's why if I do like 10 floors at a time, I think it's fine. Like especially if my RNG just sucks and other people are getting better upgrades from 1 to 10 and 11 to 20, it's something that like, okay, I've got an hour to kill. What can I do? Oh, I can go into deep dungeon and get some upgrades for an hour and casually work towards that weapon. And I feel like for the rest of forever, as long as I still have weapons to get, because for glamour or whatever reason, if I have an hour to kill before I got to go to work or whatever, I'll just hop in a deep dungeon for an hour solo. Yeah. Like, I think it hits that middle spot.
But what happens when you're not activated by the rewards? When the rewards are not something that you want or feel like you even need?
By the time I feel like I actively play about 4 classes, and I feel like by the time I would get 4 weapons for glamour, they'll hopefully have another.
Nika, I understand. No. We all understand for you what your motivation is. I'm saying if that motivation wasn't a factor for you, if you weren't motivated to do any of those things, if you did not like any of the items, and you really truly felt like item upgrades do not serve your character and do not serve to push you forward in the content that you actively participate in. Well, that makes it different, right?
It does, but you have to also think that not everything is going to suit everyone. Like that's just how the way MMOs work.
We've been over this a million times. Rating gear only serves to make you better at raiding.
I agree. What I was saying is that I feel like Deep Dungeon hit that spot for a bigger amount of people. Obviously, there are still some people that don't.
I think it could have, except there's only one reward. That's my problem, is that there's only one reward, and I can look at that and go, nah, pass. That's the problem, is that Square Enix needs to be making content that I can't look at and go, nah, pass. You know what I mean? It's you write off an entire section of content because you don't want one item. It's the one item. If there were more rewards out of that, are you kidding me? People would be all over it.
Yeah, I agree.
The reward structure is totally fucked. Like the systems, even Diadem, as flawed as it was, had it had a better reward structure, it would have done better. And I'm constantly frustrated at this point because it's like, okay, that may even be worth doing, but there's no reason for me to do it unless I really want that one thing.
And I think,
I don't know.
And I think, honestly, a lot of us here at Limit Break Radio have great ideas, and I hope they listen. Like, even just a small chance of a chest on each boss floor would be enough for a lot of people. And you're right, because a lot of people don't care about glamour. They don't care about mounts and minions. It's all aesthetic. So what does it matter? In the end, it doesn't. So you're right. And I think there are so many ways they could easily fix this, and I hope that Square Enix is listening, but to the people. But.
And to speak to Juxta's point, when you go back and you play FF11, I don't feel like you have that same problem because there are things that keep driving your playing and your participation. Right? Like, I feel like, Juxta, you had said when you're sitting around scrubbing dishes, you're thinking about what you're going to be doing next on FF11.
Right.
Because, I feel, and I felt that too. And I feel like the reason that exists, at least to some degree, is because there is so much to do, and you also have to
realize that those of us who are playing 11 right now haven't played in years, so there's also so much content we haven't done. I feel like if we quit 14 for 2 years and then started again, we'd be thinking about what to do in 14 as well.
She's not wrong. I mean, I've stayed kind of tuned into 11 for all this time. For me, I play to help Juxta or to help Nika. I don't have a ton to do for myself.
That's fair. But again, I mean that we're talking about a game that is over 11, almost 12 years old at this point, and what I'm saying is that motivation that you still feel today, and yes, that I'll admit, being gone for 2 years does affect that somewhat. But the entire time that I played 11 as an active character, I always felt that.
There was always something to drive at.
Yes, I always felt that pull of like, what am I going to need to do next, or what is my next goal?
Today, I'm going to really work towards getting that Hakutaku cluster so I can finally get my O hat.
There you go. Yeah,
But then when you realize that actually half of the time available was spent shouting in Juno for a group, then you wish that wasn't a thing. So 11 had its good content, but not its good execution. And I feel like 14 has better execution with the lack of content. So I think we need a balance somewhere in here.
But the fact that it's taken an entire expansion cycle and almost 2 years for them to dial in this process and they're still getting it wrong really concerns me as a fan. Like, as a subscriber to this game, it makes me wonder whether or not they really know what they're doing or if they're just clutching at straws.
I feel like they know what they're doing, the people who are actually making the content, but then I feel like there's just some person in a chair that says, okay, but now we need to add, like, do this with it. And then when they do that one thing, they kind of like ruin the content. Like making Deep Dungeon. Like, to me, Deep Dungeon is like two different systems. Like, you have the 1 to 30 where you're leveling up, which is fine, but I feel like that's completely different from when you're going from 30 to 40 when you're actually at the max level and you're actually trying to survive and not just farm EXP. Like, I feel like it's two different systems, and it's really jarring to go from 1 to 30 and then 30 to 50. And I really don't... when I was playing 40 to 50, I felt like, man, once I beat this, I'm going to have to go through 1 to 30 again, and that's going to be the worst thing ever, because I don't want to have to go through, basically be a low-level character again, and just,
That's why they upped the silver chance chest, apparently, supposedly.
What's that?
That's why they upped the chance, the silver chest chance of working on the low floor. So to make it less.
I don't even care about that. I don't want to have to go through that garbage, that trash. It's pointless. I'm gonna just steamroll
solo or with two people, I think.
It was more fun with two, but like.
No, I want to be at max level, and I want to do this event, and I want to have 50 floors of being max level, where I have to actually try. Where I have to, like, be aware and use my pole manners intelligently.
Yeah. 51 to 100 should be better. Where
I don't throw pole manners on the floor and blame it on Skuro because I'm being a dick because there's literally no challenge.
Right. Yes. And I think that's the part of it, because you're right. Like, at least 2/3 of it are completely... a snooze fest.
Pointless.
Yeah, it's like sleepwalking.
Well, I think Juxta might have kind of hit on the head with saying that there's someone there who is just kind of screwing everything up, and I worry that it might be Yoshi.
Well,
is it Yoshi? I
worry that it kind of is.
I don't know. They had to start one. I mean, do you think that when 51 to 100 comes out, you're going to start at 1, or you can start at 51?
I have
because the 1 to 30 was supposed to be easy. Like, it was. They told us that from the start. It's the intro to Deep Dungeon, teaches you the mechanics of it. It allows newer players to ease into.
Yeah, no, that's a Juxta's got a really good point. Having to do that every single time and having to do, ask yourself, what is there anything interesting about progressing from between levels 1 and 30? Like, is there anything about that mechanic of FF14 that is worth being repeatable? That is worth, you know what I mean? Like, it's like any MMO grinding from, the opening 30 levels of whatever you're playing sucks. Every MMO, like what do we always say? Wait until, level 40, level 50,
right.
To then really make your decision, Dude, I sort of feel like there is no MMO that is compelling below level 30, and to throw players into that churn again and again and again. You're right, it's monotonous.
And okay, like, if you want to make it so you can XP and be with your low level friends, okay, fine, but make Deep Dungeon easy mode 1 to 50, and you level up 1 to 60. Fine, do that, but then have Deep Dungeon hard mode, where you're right at 60, level floor 1.
That's going to be 51 to 100, Juxta.
But why do you waste these 30 floors? Why did you have to do that? Why?
Doesn't make it. Yeah, and it really. That seems like one of those decisions that is, like Escalia, like you were saying, that, someone who doesn't necessarily play the game or isn't as connected to the game or
doesn't have the concept or like the game knowledge to understand a bad decision.
Right. And they come in and they go, yeah, but what about these new low-level players, but players that just sign up? We want them to be able to play with their high-level friends that have been playing for 4 years. Then let's just make the system level as you go. well, wait, just make that work. You know what I mean? Like, I sort of.
I feel like as long as when 51 to 100 comes out, if we can start at 51 every single time and not have to go back to 1, I'll be fine with it.
Okay, but why would you think that would be the case?
Because it's a whole new set of floors. You think that once we do 51 to 100, we're going to have to go back to 1?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, if this.
And guess what? At
And
levels,
then once 200 comes out, we're going to have to go back to 1 and go all the way to 200?
Yeah.
and I don't think we're gonna get Deep Dungeons floors 1 through 200 in the 3.0 expansion. I think we're gonna get floors floors 100 at 4.0, and then you can have to level from 61 to 70 for those 4 more floors.
You think?
Yeah, that's
No,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
No. I
I mean, I could see it, but I don't think so. I don't know. I feel like it ended up being a miss on something that should have been kind of a home run.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And I'm like, this whole expansion has felt that way. And I feel like we came out of 2.0 and, Yoshi was kind of God tier and everyone respected him. And then this whole expansion has been just such a disappointment and a miss. For me, he's on the hot seat going into 4.0. If 4.0 sucks, I'm done.
Yeah, I don't disagree, man. I don't disagree, and it like bums me out to be at that point. You know what I mean? Like
Deep Dungeon right now in its current incarnation feels like an alpha.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is the base
which is
you got.
exactly.
But I think it was supposed to be because it's the beginning floors.
But that's.
But why do you push that out on your players right now? Why is that acceptable?
I mean, why wouldn't it be? It has to. First of all, they have to test the system to see if people like it before they move forward with it, and then they have to then figure out what's wrong with it, like incentive, and then fix it or objectives even, and fix it for the next set of floors. And the next set of floors are the ones that people are going to care about anyway. So they want to make sure it's right before that.
They could have even made these opening floors cooler. Like if they had made the bosses on each floor a little bit harder, such that you have to think, okay, how can I do this since I only have my level 1 through 14 abilities or something like that? If they had done it even that way, it'd have been a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
But all those bosses, like the boss is like, oh, I'm going to turn into a succubus and we're just going to destroy it.
I there, and the entire last episode we talked about Deep Dungeon and the possible rewards that they could have put in there that would have been way more motivating and way more, I think, relevant to the community had they done that. I agree with you guys. I feel like this is just a huge ball of missed opportunities on the part of Square Enix, and the sad part is that they could easily fix this. Like they could easily bring this right back around, and it just takes time. It takes time and development, and it's kind of hard. Like if they're crowdsourcing gear design at this point, like that also makes me nervous that they're sort of creatively tapped. Like they're like Yokai Watch, and we'll put in your gear designs, and we don't know anymore.
I feel like the gear design thing is more just for the fans thing. That doesn't bother me. The Yokai Watch thing does.
Maybe, but it just I do have a tough time understanding a lot of the decisions that they're making regarding this stuff, because you're right, Escalia, this should have been a home run. This should have been an easy home run.
Another thing I thought was a huge missed opportunity, the random dungeon. I knew that going in we're going to have the square grid or whatever,
right? But
I thought they were going to have like interesting rooms, so like maybe once you get to like floor 30 or something, you're going to have like a double room where it's a 1x2 square and it's like has something more interesting in it, or even a giant room like a 4 or 2x2 square that has like a maze or something in it, or something, just in Naizu Isle, where they had like different.
That is actually something I would expect to see coming.
Floors. I feel like if you put harder mechanics in when you only have 2 moves and you're just hitting 1, 2, 1, 2, it might be a little too difficult. So I'm hoping, again, if 51 to 100 comes out and has none of this, I'm going to be very disappointed. But like maybe you walk into a room and it just has a poison floor. So rather than having the entire floor be a poison debuff or something, like there's literally poison on the floor, and to walk through it gives you a dot or something. That would be cool. It'd be random, totally out.
And we did see the layouts grow more complex on the way to 1 to 50. So I could definitely see like change like that happening.
I just don't even mean like the number of rooms, just like have like just different rooms, because like I went through it once and I saw repeats. I saw like okay, this is the room with the giant hole in the middle, or this is the room with the giant pillar in the middle, or this is the room where it's a Y and you have to go around. Like I shouldn't see that after the first run.
Yeah.
During the first run even.
Yeah. I think that there was another good point brought up as well, that this does feel like sort of like it's in alpha stage development and it's being tested out. And am I wrong, or did Diadem feel much the same way?
Yes, it did. We called it that. We called it a beta test.
Yeah,
but the thing is then they never did anything with Diadem. They say they're going to change it. Who knows? But at least we know there is more coming, and hopefully they're listening to us. Because if they are, we know that there is definitely a next set of floors coming. We know that. And hopefully, if they really are treating this as an alpha or a beta, that they're going to improve the next set. And honestly, until that comes out, we don't know.
But why has every edition been a misstep? It just, you know what I mean?
See, this is where I wish that 14 had test servers. If they could recruit, a few thousand people to test out Deep Dungeon, then be like, the incentive's not enough. This is kind of silly. Give more objectives. Then, by the time they roll it out, it would be a good system. I don't know why FF14 is one of the only MMOs that doesn't do that. I don't know.
I agree, Nico.
Yeah, no, I do agree, because I think that they're relying. There's too much of an echo chamber effect going on with the dev team.
Yes.
I think that they've got some set ideas of what they think works and what they think doesn't. And, I know that they take feedback from the community. They take feedback from the official forums. And that's all well and good. That's even a step in the right direction from FF11. But the thing is that, when you are only testing in a bubble, and when you're testing in God mode, and you're testing for balance, it really doesn't drive home the replayability factor, the grind factor. And that's where I think that's where they end up messing up, because they end up putting in incentives that don't match the grind, and you can either get through the grind way too quickly, as is the case with Anima right now, and all of the different possibilities that you have in advancing your weapon type, or they have the other problem where they just simply don't put enough incentive in there to
sustain the content.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that you would see more people be enthusiastic about Deep Dungeon if they thought that they were getting something out of it at the end of the day, because it's not a bad system. It's not bad, and it is grindable, and it's, you can kind of turn your brain off for some of it
too.
Yeah, and there is fun to be had, but if you're not interested by what you're taking out of there, what is the point?
Well, and you talk about things like the official forums being a step in the right direction from 11. Even 11 eventually adopted a test server.
Right.
It is not good when your game doesn't have something that 11 had in terms of player feedback.
And I get that they don't want to, it would negatively impact the world firsting community, but I you know what? I'm not hearing much out of them. I mean, I know that it's going to be till 3.4 when we hear about them, about world firsting again, but it's just like, when you only have content in every other patch that's relevant to world first groups, then I think that more of your community would benefit from a test server than the minuscule, minor fraction of your community that's being competitive to try to get those world firsts, right? If you weigh the two, you look at the benefit that a test server could have on the entire community versus the damage that it does in the world first community. How is Square Enix still going, the world first community is the one that we need to be supporting?
Yeah. Well, if you think about the world first community, how many players actually is that? I mean, tops, 100, 200?
Maybe, if that. I mean,
I think that is generous.
The 1%ers.
It's
the 0.1%.
The 0.1%ers, yeah. There's not that many folks that are, and even at this point, at one point in this game, world firsting was very competitive, but now we've seen huge gaps in content. We see raiders who finish content very, very quickly and then unsub, don't come back until there's new content. So there's 4 months where they're not even plugged into the game at all. Or don't need to be plugged into the game at all. And, again, why continue to support that part of the community if that's only, 100 people, maybe less than that? That doesn't make any sense. Nika, do you have anything to say about that?
I don't know. Especially, I feel like now, I felt that way when I was doing coils, because coils I always had on farm before the next set of group come out, and then there were literally days where I would log in, do the 4 coil tiers, and log out till the next Tuesday. But because for whatever reason, if it's because of my group schedule or if it's because of the difficulty of it or whatever, like we're still working on it. And I think that we might maybe just clear A8 maybe right before A9 comes out. So I don't know. It's hard for me to.
Would you
to
be
say how I feel
opposed
about
to
that.
a test server?
I mean,
in the game?
do you think that a test server does damage to the rating community or to the endgame community? And
Well, I guess it depends on how much they put in the test server. Like
Right.
I don't think most MMOs put everything exactly as it is in the test server, but
no, they don't, and there are also, there are additional variables that they allow some players to control on the test server too. So, something like that is also a factor. But
I guess you're right though, because I do feel like that if they put the raids exactly as they are in the test server, it would be the world firsters who go in and figure out the mechanics and all that jazz. But I don't think that because the endgame raids are such a small population, I don't feel like that would be what would be.
I also sort of, but the
I
thing
feel
is,
like that they have a pretty good balance testing team that they have on their own. And if something's too hard, they fix it. Like they actually listen to that community. Like they've fixed a couple mechanics just in hot fixes.
So you're exactly right. I actually think that Square Enix could implement a test server and omit all rating from the test server, and still it would serve its purpose. Because you're right, Nika, the raids are incredibly well balanced, and so moving forward, I would expect them to still be well balanced.
Yeah, and in the times that they're not, people bitch and they fix them. I mean, granted, A3 was its own monster, but I feel like even in like A6, they're like, oh man, the difficulty curve was way too high at the beginning from A5, so we're gonna change a few of the mechanics here. Like right off the bat, they did that within like a month, a few weeks maybe. And so I feel like they listen enough to the small endgame community that it doesn't need to be in a test server. And I think there are other games that don't put their raids, their top tier things in the test server. It's more like if they're implementing a new system or a new, new abilities and they want to test that kind of stuff out, or a new thing like Deep Dungeon. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think test servers would probably be to the benefit of FF14. So let's go to our phone lines. We've had Tomo Luciana hanging on from Midgard for a while. Tomo, welcome to Limit Break Radio.
Hey, dude. How you doing?
So, good. Thanks for calling the show. What would you like to talk about?
Well, there was actually something that I was thinking about talking this for a while now, and it kind of always becomes like an issue with like free companies when we talk about this in our server.
Okay.
It's in general, we noticed that rating has completely died in our server. Like it's gone. Like we just have no incentive to raid because the whole system on, okay, we're going to get these following items from this content, but then we're just going to toss it next raid.
Right.
What's the purpose of this if we're just going to do this? And so we essentially turn to other content, old content. This is like, really at this point is that we're looking into, wow, like AAR content is still good in comparison to, Heaven's Word. And we go and play with the Leafs. And like really at this point, we're helping people get to 60 at this point, and it just we feel left out. Like we feel like there's no content for the level 60 community, and there's like all this content for the low base content players.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, because every time level capped players get content, it seems like either there is an inclusive portion of that content for lower level players, like in Deep Dungeon, or that it is, lower level players are also getting another system that they can use to either grind XP or whatever. So, every time there's something added, it feels like it's also ubiquitously added for those that are just starting the game also. And I don't know that that's exactly fair. Like, I don't think that that's fair for an MMO to be like, yeah, okay, level 17, you can do this most recent piece of, awesome, relevant content. Do people really want that from an MMO? I feel like that's not the reason that people play MMOs. Easy gratification and instant gratification may be the reason that people play video games, but I don't think it's a good reason to play an MMO, because this is a bad format for getting your instant gratification on. This is a long-term gratification sort of game here. And the people who want to continue playing these games and will continue investing in these games want to feel that long-term investment. And you're totally right, Tomo, that taking and throwing all of your gear out, in 1 or 2 patches later, it totally demotivates people. It's completely demotivated me because none of my gear has a point. I don't get attached to any of the items that I have. I get attached to it in a visual sense, and that's it. And
I get attached to anything tanky. I don't know why. Like, I have like my Gordian tank gear just because it was my main gear and I can't throw it out.
I keep it for glamour possibilities, but that's it.
It was ugly as all get out. But because it was my tank gear, like I will get rid of the monk, Gordian gear, the caster, whatever. But my tank gear, I still have like so much tank gear just because I don't want to get rid of it.
And the number, here's a number I'd like to see. I'd like to see the number of people who are level 17 and that's all they have actually doing deep dungeon, because if you're actually like trying to do this as a new player, you're not doing deep dungeon. Most likely, I would imagine you're probably doing the storyline, which is far more interesting.
How many people are level 17? They're going to get the level 30 weapon and maybe be like 35 and not be able to use the 235 weapons.
Right.
Yeah, they built it in there so that new players could do this, but how many new players would actually do this rather than the main storyline, which would be far more interesting than deep dungeon if you haven't seen it before?
Yeah, especially like just looking in the novice chat, like most of the new players are concerned with getting through the filler quest in the storyline to get to Heaven's Word. They're less concerned about the actual content yet.
Also, keep in mind that when you're low level and you're leveling up so quickly, those abilities are just going to pop right into your bar right at the bottom. And let's face it, new player, you're not going to know how to work with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's okay because they want the jumping potion. They can figure it out.
We had somebody
mid-dungeon
that was
with a time limit. Come on.
We had somebody that actually was a lancer in my party.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and he was so frustrated because he didn't know what to do with all these abilities.
Oh, okay.
His DPS
I could see
people are doing that on purpose.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people who go as their base job on purpose so they can have the cross class abilities. But this sounds like someone who was just a lancer.
He was a lancer. He was like, "Fuck the." He said it in big capital letters. "Fuck this! I can't do shit. I'm just going to learn how to be a tank or a healer." I mean, and I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, if you can't do DPS, you sure shit don't want to be a tank.
I mean, to be fair, like Lancer and Dragoon's like rotation's hard to learn, and it would be very hard to learn on the fly.
Right.
It is because you don't. Yeah, Dragoons have not just their 1, 2, 3 DPS rotation, but they also have a dot rotation, and you have to alternate them, and it gets really confusing.
They have two 1, 2, 3 rotations.
Yeah, they do, and you have to do them both. And I just can't even imagine getting all that just dropped on you at once.
No.
Well, but that's literally what Deep Dungeon does. And so I feel like that response would be your typical newer player's response to going through that system and being completely overwhelmed with skills and abilities that you don't know how to use and feeling like, I'm totally fucking this up. That's got to be even more frustrating than anything.
And that's not a good feeling. Like when you know you're playing wrong and you're not holding up your end of the bargain in a party, that sucks.
Totally.
I mean, it's one thing when you're on stream and you're trolling Skuro.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're legitimately trying and you know you're sucking compared to everyone else, that's a horrible feeling.
I mean, this should have been implemented at level 50. That way you know your abilities and stuff. Just in my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? And the levels don't come as fast.
If it had started at level 50 and floors 1 to 10 took you like 50 to 60, like I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Because then it would just feel like a recap of Heaven's Award. You're like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Tomo. We appreciate the call. If you want to call Limit Break Radio on Skype, 810-515-8715, limitbreakradio.com/Discord to call in on Discord. We want to hear from you. What have you been doing in terms of Deep Dungeon? How far are you on your anima? Are you even still logging in? We want to know. Limit Break Radio on Skype, 810-515-8715, limitbreakradio.com/Discord. Where is the joy for you? Where are you finding the joy in FF14 right now? A lot of people seem to be questioning why they're even subscribed.
And it's frustrating. We get emails and tweets with people saying that LBR is the only thing that's keeping them attached to FF14, and that's terrifying to us.
Well, that's a lot of pressure. God damn, that's no pressure.
Hope you like fake fantasy leagues.
Right? But yeah, like that's the thing is that, even us here in the show, I think only one of us is really enthused about FF14 at the moment, and we're not trying to. Clearly, we're not trying to shit on it, and
is that Papa?
Nika.
Oh, right.
Clearly, we're not trying to shit on it or give it a hard time, or just encourage people to get off of FF14. That's clearly that would not do anything. That would not do us any favors.
No,
but.
We make money off Final Fantasy 14.
I'm just an optimist. Like, I actually still think that Deep Dungeon, as it currently stands, is repetitive as hell, and I get very burnt out on it very quickly. I'm just an optimist that things will get better, and if they don't, I'm going to be very soul crushed. So, because I see the basics and I see where it can build. I just hope that Square Enix. If Square Enix can't see what I can see, I'm going to be very upset.
Well, let me ask you this, Nika. You're an optimist, and I think we're all pretty well aware of that. But outside of rating, is your overall motivation for 14 down?
I want to say a little, but that's only because it's summer and I just like to sleep. Because when I'm up, I'm on the game and I'm doing my roulettes and stuff. But honestly, I'm getting a little bored of just having 2 expert dungeons. That's my main thing, which everybody is. But in general, like, because I'm still working on my relic, I know I need to do my roulettes every day so that I can do that. There's also a lot more triple triad cards, so I'm spending my time doing that. Like, I still have other stuff I'm doing in my downtime.
I actually have seen a resurgence in triple triad players recently, which is weird.
That is depressing. Is actually the word.
Triple Triad is a lot of fun. I think that's one mini game they did really well. Like, every
agree.
single patch, they add new cards and new NPCs, and like, I'm constantly doing these.
You're right. They made an amazing addition to FF14 back in 1998 when they made that game.
No, you know what?
The way they add the collectibles in is they did a good job.
2.0 content.
This is what I hate. Okay, I hate Triple Triad because it's barely a card game. Okay.
Oh my god.
Square Enix needs to add a real card game,
the
like
card game
Magic
connoisseur
or Hearthstone, a card game with like mechanics and spells and like.
So
actually, if they added a Magic kind of clone, like their own Magic Hearthstone clone, actually, I'd be into that.
So Lords of Verminion, except with cards.
Well, no,
but not garbage.
No, but I mean, like, that if you ask that from Square Enix, they're just going to go, "Here's Lords of Verminion with cards." Like, they're not even going to buy. It's not going to be cool.
Play it. I promise he still plays it.
It's going to be all of the.
Triple Triad was at least thought out enough that it's a fun system, it's a collecting system, and you always feel like you have more to get. So I'm not.
I'm just saying, like, all of your cards are going to be based off of minions. That's all.
Square Enix, hire me, and I will make your card game system. Okay, I will make sure it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Okay. All right. Before we move on from this and get into the FFFL draft, real quick, because Pokemon Go is the biggest thing in gaming right now. We're going to be talking a lot about that over on our other show, Final Encountercast. Make sure that you join us live at twitch.tv/Final Encountercast at 5. We're going to be going through the latest gaming headlines, talking about some Pokemon Go, and talking to you as well. So join us live over at twitch.tv/Final Encountercast. But what, we talked a lot about motivation. We talked a lot about, how does a game motivate its players to stay involved and to stay plugged in. And with Pokemon Go, you've seen the same fall off in interest with certain players that in the same fashion that you would with MMO content. Either they've been, breezing through catching Pokemon too quickly, or, there's nothing that spawns in their area, and that's a demotivating factor. So I'm curious, what have you guys noticed in your own playing of Pokemon Go and the way that it motivates you to keep playing? Because really, honest to God, that's the only game that I've been plugged into. It's the only game I've had time for in the last 2 weeks.
A mobile game.
I know, right?
It's because it's so casual. Insane. That's why people like to keep playing it, because you can do it when you're just walking around to the store for 5 minutes.
Right.
I think that's very different than having to be stuck at your computer playing a game for hours.
I agree.
You can't be at your computer playing.
I can.
Can be.
Wow. I can.
And
But
honestly,
that's just
I don't
because I
feel
live
like-
in Safari Zone.
I mean, but to me, Pokemon Go feels a lot like Triple Triad to me, because currently all it is a collection game. They haven't added in the trading, they haven't added
You're
in the
right.
battling. Like, none of that exists yet. And even like if you don't have a 2000 CP Pokemon, you're not going to be able to take over your gyms anyway. So really, what you're doing is collecting everything until you get a high enough level to get those gym level Pokemon.
Yeah,
And
but once
essentially all I'm doing is looking for a rare Pokemon and running to it and then coming back home. Like, there's nothing to keep me motivated outside of collecting right now, which is exactly what Triple Triad does for me.
Well, but you know, it's interesting that you say that, because you know, to me, like I've had an interesting arc with this where I'm still very tuned in, and I'm at 130. I'm like closing in on my final 10.
I just want to highlight this, okay, guys. Okay, Aniero just said he has at 130
Caught.
Pokemon caught.
Of 142.
Yes.
Okay, just
so I'm
there you
almost
go.
I'm almost on my last 10. All right. So
Go touch his dick.
and the thing is, like, I don't like go places. I don't go out hunting. It's mostly what I'm catching around here, and what I've
You
heard.
are lucky.
I know. But the thing.
You douchebag.
The thing that I've heard about the reason people are starting, because when everyone picked it up, every gaming news channel went insane and went, "This is the new future. The Nintendo stock has risen $9 billion overnight. Everyone, literally, more people are playing this than are trying to have sex." It's, you know, like everyone lost their fucking mind about it, and now 4 weeks out from its release, we're seeing the normal like shakeout.
Drop off.
Yeah.
What you'd expect.
And now,
it's not a
those
huge
same
drop,
fucking channels, like, and I'm gonna call them out too. The No guys, come on, you're smarter than that. You guys are so much smarter than that. You're produced by Rooster Teeth. You can't be this dumb to sit there and talk about, well, Pokemon Go is dying. No, it's not. Come on.
I know, especially because
World of Warcraft is dying.
I know, it's the same. It's that same
I've
shit.
read so many more articles that are like any of Niantic's games. If you know anything about Niantic's games, that the gameplay
stupid.
builds and updates and goes and blah blah blah, and it
Yeah.
always gets better.
It's
as it
like
goes.
an
And, like,
MMO.
they've already given us a ton of things that they're adding in the future, and so all you have to do is look forward to it. and it'll
So
be fine.
I'm just
look forward to
the way that the game rewards, the way that the game, you know, there's also that whole turf battling thing, which I think is really cool. You know, like that, those aspects I think have really done well at activating people's desire mechanism, right? Like, that's what you want in your game. You want your desire mechanism to be fired.
a little bit of that Pokemon lust. Like, I want that 2000 CP Snorlax. God damn it!
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. and
Absolutely.
it will make you break behaviors to be able to do that. And I find that really fascinating. And I think that there are lessons that Pokemon Go teaches us, not just about MMOs, but about game development and player incentive that is really important, and that everyone should be paying attention to.
Well, I think what Niantic has captured so brilliantly is that human beings measure what they have based on what others have.
That is also true.
No,
Holy shit.
We do as humans, and like people like Nika, me, and Juxta, we get super mad at you.
It's a dick measuring tool, yeah.
Because you sit here in the Safari Zone while we live on Route 1. I wake up and my little radar every day is like 6 Rattatas, 2 Weedles, and a Pidgey.
Now, look,
But I'm going to shout out that my Dratini spawn has not changed to an Eevee. There was a Dratini a few minutes ago.
Neither has mine. Mine is still popping Dratinis.
The point is, you send pictures into our host chat every day of shit you found and caught, and every one of us says, "Oh, nice, cool," and thinks, "Fuck you, you asshole."
I know.
Actually, I just stopped responding.
Yeah,
Can't handle it.
a lot of us have just been like, "I'm done, not talking to you
Love
anymore."
the show and the game because of you guys so much. I made a sub for LBR.
Yes, we're
Love
gonna Fonz. We're gonna get to that. We're definitely gonna talk about your subreddit before we go.
But my point is though, like, the reason the game works is because there's places where garbage spawns and there's places where tons of awesome stuff spawns, and it makes me want the good stuff that I can't get at my house.
And you have to, and the game doesn't give you an easy way to get it either. You have to get your ass up and you've got to move.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is that it is very hardline about that restriction. Like, look, you've got to do some work. You've got to do some effort. And there are people who are lucky, like me, who live in the city, or there are some people anyone who works downtowns at like Quicken or anything, you know what I mean? Like they've got easily as banging a collection as I do because they can sit at work or they can take their lunch hour and just, sit at a lure spot.
But on the other hand, you will never feel the way I felt when I caught my Snorlax in my town. Because I've been sitting here lusting after a Snorlax. I want one, and finally he appeared. He was on my radar. My heart nearly came out my throat when he popped up.
It'll happen. I mean,
the Kabutops.
I saw Snorlax on my radar, and then I've never seen it again.
If I ever saw a wild Kabutops, I don't know that I'd be able to catch it because I'd be shaking too much.
Yeah.
But I'll probably end up evolving it. Anyway, I don't want to get too bogged down in Pokemon Go. We've got that set aside for Final Encounter Cast. That's coming up next over at twitch.tv/Final Encounter Cast. Before we get into